I'm just waiting for Ledge Services to reply, but we don't have a vice chair or chair here today, so maybe the panel members could think about one of you taking over. I just have to find out the exact process for that.
I would volunteer Luke if he's able to chair.
Hey, sorry, I'm just getting my computer set up here.
Are you open to chairing, Luke, if need be?
Yeah, I can chair if needed. I've just messaged John to see if he's joining, but and maybe he's a bit engaged today.
Okay, thank you.
Are we otherwise ready to start? If I just...
I'm just waiting for one last confirmation from Ledge Services on process here. Just one sec.
Okay.
Okay, so there'll have to be a motion to put somebody acting as chair, and that can start the meeting as soon as Celso sits down again. We should be good to go.
Okay. Could someone just give me an attendance of the people in the chambers? Because I can't see everybody. If everyone could just let me know who's there.
I can do that, Luke. So we have Michael and Kelso in the room. And then we have Suni, Beth, and and yourself. Well, mine.
Okay, thank you. Is it me that has to make the motion to adopt myself as the chair temporarily?
Maybe Michael, do you want to make the motion? I'll just make sure the recording started. Okay.
I'd make the motion to nominate Luke to chair the meeting.
I second.
Okay, thank you guys. I'll start the meeting then for the advisory design panel meeting of Thursday, April the 17th. I'd just like to start with this by saying welcome to the Squamish National Traditional Territory. The first item on the agenda today sorry, the first item is to adopt the agenda from the April 17th. So could I have a motion to adopt that agenda? It's Beth and seconded. Can't
I'll
see
second.
anyone. Thanks, Elso. And then the advisory design panel minutes of March the 20th, the recommendation is that the advisory design panel minutes of that date are to be adopted. And so a motion to adopt those minutes, please. I can't see. Michael,
Michael, I'll adopt the motion to adopt.
thanks. And seconded. Anybody?
I'll second.
Thanks, Elso. Okay, so there for the first item of business today, I'll turn it over to Bryan Daly to introduce 38006 of Cleveland Avenue.
Thanks, Chair. So the item today is development permit number 625, which is a development permit application for mixed-use building containing 20 market rental residential units at 38006 Cleveland Avenue. This project was previously presented at the March 20th, 2025 ADP meeting, where the panel gave a number of comments that they wanted to see addressed and wanted the project to come back. I won't go through all of those comments in detail, but I will pass it over to the architect to present the revisions that have been made to the project to address those comments.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay? I'll assume so. My name is Annie Terrett. I'm the architect on the project. I was unable to be here in person last time. Now I am. So my plan is to go through first the floor plans and point out the changes to you guys, and then you'll see those reflected in the elevations with the renderings on the same pages. So starting, let me just get my controls right here. Yeah. Okay. So the first one with the site plan was talking about a loading area, and currently, as we will further work with the city, we have it proposed off Loggers Lane. Its exact location and proximity to the building and the property is still to be worked out, but this is the current plan of where we are proposing it. There hasn't been much of a change to the materials, as the materials are still the same as the last time. There's just been a few changes to some of the design elements in the floor plans. So starting with, let's see if this works, on the ground floor here, the first comment was where we had the row of planters around this ground level patio was to break it up with planters and benches for permeability, which we have done. Then moving further back, in the garbage room area, we have flattened out the slab, which you will see on the one of the sections further down. Then moving on to the second level, in this office space, we have increased the windows along here, as well as adding a patio to for the office space that will be facing Cleveland Avenue. The intent in this office space is that the longer, deeper back area would be more for the services of storage as well as boardrooms and that, so that we wouldn't be having workers working down in the back along that way. So that is more the intent of this layout. Moving to the third level, there had been some comments about this office space that was on the same level as the residential. The intent of this office is that it would function more as a WeWork shared office space, with priority being given to the residents of the building to rent spaces. We have also added patios off of the office space, as well as the one bedrooms. All the one bedrooms will have patios, but you can see at the back here along the Loggers Lane side, there's now the balconies added on, which is again reflected up on the fourth level as well here, as well here at the front facing Cleveland. The 5th level is similar again, just with the addition of the patios to the 1-bedroom. And then we come to the rooftop, where we have brought the elevator up to this rooftop level with this corridor access for people to come out to the common patio. We've enlarged the size of it and provided a storage area for any outdoor furniture that they have, with this portion being covered so that they have an initial covered entry in case it's raining. We've also redesigned the layout of the penthouse unit so that it's pulling the bedrooms away from where the common patio is. So those are the majority of the changes that we've made. And as you move, sorry, so just to circle back, this is just the elevation of the garbage area showing where we flattened out the slab for that. Hold on. So then moving into the elevations, along Victoria, we have taken a large portion of the canopy and raised it up so that there's now some varying levels to the canopy along that elevation. I think back here you can see that the lowest point is approximately 9'7", whereas the majority of the canopy is up in the 11'11", almost up to 12 feet range. And then here where there's the blade signage, the underside would not be any lower than 9 feet. And you can see this reflected in the rendering with the raised portion of the canopy. Moving on to the Cleveland and Loggers Lane. I'm going to start here. So we've kept the canopy along Cleveland at the same height, which is the floor level of the 2nd floor, so that we can accommodate a patio for those office spaces coming out. Scroll over to show. So now we can have patio spaces for the office. This is also the office level. This would be the level 3 shared office space. And then up here is the 1-bedroom with the patios. The patios have broken up the facade so that you don't have such a monotonous facade along that elevation, and gives a bit of depth and range to that. The same patio treatment has been applied onto the back, all the 1-bedrooms along the back along Loggers Lane. We did remove, sorry, I didn't comment before where the loading is at the back along Loggers Lane. We did remove all the temporary patio furniture that's there, so that will not be the intent of that space. Keeps doing this, sorry. So those are the changes that we made based on the comments from the last ADP. And the architecture portion is done, so I can move that on to Clark now if you'd like to say anything. And I can open his drawing for him as well.
Yeah, thank you. What we've done basically is we've adjusted the plant species to coincide with your requirements of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And the species we've chosen are species that have a lot of green in them, which are most likely not to catch fire if there's a fire in the area, and it's protective that way. Our planters are big enough to hold a very small scale tree, and the trees that we've planted are reach maybe 3 meters in height, and if you add the planter to it, you got a tree that's sitting about 4.5 meters high, and the soil volume in those planters will accommodate those trees quite well. And those are the adjustments basically that we made.
Thanks. And then I guess I'll just speak to 2 engineering department related comments. They were supportive of an on-street accessible stall on Cleveland Avenue in front of the development with a curb let down. And at the time, for the time being, on-street loading will likely be provided from Loggers Lane, though they weren't able to come to a consensus on that exact location in advance of this meeting. That will have to be determined through the servicing agreement process.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Is that everything for the presentation section?
Yes.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, I'll turn it over to the panel then for the first round of questions. I'll start with the people online. So that would be Beth, if you'd like to go first, please.
And this is for questions to start.
Questions, please. Yeah.
Okay, please bear with me as I wasn't here for the previous presentation. So a lot of these questions may have been answered for people previously, but I'd like to know myself. Just the main one in particular, and this might be a question for the district actually. The district is supporting street parking for residents of this building. Is that correct? No parking provided as a part of the development. There's been a relaxation granted.
Well, they've requested a parking variance, and staff are supporting it, given that it is 100% market rental, and it's a smaller lot.
Okay. And this question is for, I guess, the architectural component. And I'd just like to hear a little bit more about the vision in terms of how the, I guess, architectural character, the form, the massing speaks to the distinctive creative culture of architectural elegance, and how that speaks to what's unique about Squamish. And in particular, the facade that's facing the High Street, which is Cleveland Avenue.
Hi, yeah. So we really focused actually on having a really livable street level for people. So let me see about zooming in here. So starting, we really wanted to focus on this street level, providing a really interactive patio that they could have with nice canopy cover with the
We just
cedar
don't
saw-
see your drawing just yet.
Oh, sorry.
Did you put it up? There we go.
Oh. Yeah, sorry, there we go. Do I have a mouse? Yeah, so yeah, here we have this street level with the patio to really be interactive with the Cleveland Street facade. And then based on comments from the last time, we added all these patios. Hold on, there we go. We added the patios to the front to really bring a lot more variation to that facade. And then you can see better in the elevation. As the building steps back, that's where you start to get the variation, where this level has the fir wood siding, and then up on the top penthouse level, you have another layer of, or another material of the metal cladding on the top penthouse level. And then I'll just also show you in this view. So really you have this stepping back occurring with, there we go, as we bring out these patios to really interact with the street level while still being mindful of the street view angle for cutting back of the building here, which is the green line.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Beth. I go to Suni next, please.
Presentation. Just have a couple of questions. I was just wondering if I saw that there's a transportation design on Victoria Street that the district is working on. Is there any drawing or plans showing that or including that in the project?
Sorry, are you asking if we're reflecting the streetscape standards in our
Yes.
project, in the drawings? So what we have is sort of just a rough estimate of the streetscape areas, and I'll just zoom in on that for you. So this is the site plan, and on Victoria is the main one that we have. So we have the roadway, then we have the buffer zone, the bike lane, and then this boulevard, which I saw on the transportation plan would be sod. So I'm guessing grasses or any small shrubs. And then we have our sidewalk here. Once we move further into the building permit phase, that's when the civil engineer will be implementing the streetscape standards that were provided from engineering.
Okay, and thank you. And my other question is that does the storage on level 6 provide the space for all residential units?
Sorry, the storage, are you talking about up on the roof deck level?
Yeah.
That's for the common patio furniture that will in the future be up there. So if there's any chairs or couches or anything that needs to get put away, we're providing that space for them. So it's not for the individual units, it's for just the common patio. Like if they need hoses or anything to clean off the pavers, or if they have to water the planting or anything like that, they have that ability and they have a storage space for it.
Okay, and is it gonna be storage for the individual units?
No, that is not storage for individual units.
No, but are you providing storage for individual units?
Oh, I see. There's down on the ground level, there's oversized bike lockers for bicycles and stuff related to the alternate forms of transportation in that regard. But in the studio spaces, hold on, let me just scroll out. So in all of the studio units, the owner and client, the owner of the building is going to be working with a company similar to, what is it again? Resource Furniture, somewhere that does built-ins, and every unit's actually going to have a built-in with a wall bed so that they'll have storage built in, a small desk area, as well as a wall bed that they can fold up. But as that isn't yet finalized, we're not including that on the drawings yet.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all your questions, Sunny?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'll go to Michael, please.
Thanks for updating on the presentation. On the roof patio, just wondering if you could explain, so the private patio at the north end and where the planters separate the, or sorry, drawing north, yeah, there. What was the reasoning for placing those there as opposed to, say, further drawing south in line with the storage wall?
That's where they were currently placed before, and that was what we were requested to maintain from the owner at this time.
Okay. And can you zoom in to the landscape plant selections showing the tree species?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it looks like these are just the plantings for the rooftop patio and the planters on the ground level. Are there plants in the planter boxes with the units, or did those get eliminated from the?
There were, they never had plantings in them before.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. My understanding was that the planters for the units never had plants in them before. It was always just the ground level and the roof deck. And what we did get rid of was the planter box, the window planter boxes, because we felt that the patios would be a better use for that portion. But I can let Clark further comment if I got that wrong.
You got that right.
Okay. So the only places for planting are on the roof and the main floor. Any of the patio planters would be residents providing their own pots and plants and things like that. There's no other place for planting. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Thanks, Michael. Celso, next.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. That'll just be, I think it's just me left now on the list. Yeah, thank you for coming back and making the changes so quickly. The couple of questions that I have is like, has there been any consideration for overhead weather protection on the rooftop patio?
Not covering the entire patio. The only area where we have the weather protection is just on the initial exiting out, and then covering all the way where that storage the buildup for the storage is. Part of that was to maintain the stepping back of the sight lines from Cleveland.
Okay.
So, yeah. Mhm.
What about like solar shading or anything? Was there anything else up there for that?
Sorry, solar shading over the
Like
patio?
the patio, and also for the penthouse unit for the glazing there.
Yeah, so the penthouse unit has some angled window, I don't want to call them window boxes, but it does have slight window fins that are going over the top of them. Here,
Oh
let
yeah, I see
me-
them now. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then for the patio, I mean, I imagine that the tenants, if they wanted to have a rooftop umbrella, then they can easily put that up there. But, and that's the intent of the storage space that we provide also if needed. But we wouldn't be showing that as it's not built in.
Okay. Having seen like the previous presentation and the changes that have happened on the Cleveland side of things, I'm just wondering, like, how does the Cleveland elevation relate to the neighboring context? So the building that's adjacent to it, the existing, how does that entry canopy and the roof line of the neighboring building relate to this one?
Are you referring to this building that we show in green beside them? Or do you mean across the street?
The green one. Yeah.
That building actually, I don't know if I can zoom in. From what I can tell, that building comes out and we've tried to pull our canopy at this level out as far as the building is, and then come down and differentiate that with this, with the fir wood finish so that you can really see the differentiation between the two buildings while still providing a little bit of a privacy to that residential entrance there off the street. But we didn't want to come, well, we can't come any more forward from that building because it's right on the property line.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so essentially in pulling our building back from the property line, we were limited. And so we mostly just had the canopy and then pulling down from it to work with.
Okay. And previously you had these like wraparounds with the little planters and gardens in the front of them, and I know there were some comments on the plants, but what was the rationale behind the revision from that kind of articulation to just sort of guardrails with balconies?
Sorry, it was bordering on the practical usability of the one-bedroom units. There was a good point made that those one bedrooms didn't have any of their own private patio space. And this really was the best opportunity here to give them the patios, and it also functioned to break up that facade and give a bit more variation to it. And then this allows whoever is in the office space or up in the residential to put out any pots or planters that they want to put, and then they will care for those going forward.
Okay, thank you. I noticed the changes have been made to the commercial, and I was just wondering, is there any consideration being given for like where the mechanical louvers will be located on this? I'm just interested.
Sorry, what do you mean mechanical louvers located for the commercial?
The louvers for the commercial, like mechanical, like where would they be located on the storefront, or will there be an exhaust located on the face of the building, or is a particular spot being allocated for it?
Yeah, so we have so this is the ground commercial level, and then here on the second level on the backside by loggers is really the sort of, I'll call it the service end. Just due to the floodplain, we have to have everything up higher. So this is where we have, the electrical, the sprinkler, and all the mechanical units. So all of that will be geared towards this back end of the building and worked out with the mechanical engineer. And I'm just going to shoot down to the elevation. So here you can see a little here. So this area in the back where we have these slats for airflow, that's actually in that area where the mechanical units will be. So then we can have any of the louvers, probably, I'm guessing they could run along here as needed. I don't think they'll need to be low down, but we would consult with with the mechanical about the best location for that, while still trying to have it fit within these materials that we've selected for the ground level so that it fits in and matches.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm just checking through my questions here. I think that's all I have at this point. I think Beth has another question, so I'll just turn it over to her real quick.
Oh, yes, thanks for doubling back to me. I did forget to ask, there was an item that was listed in the summary document about policy context for DPA 3, and that was improved energy and water conservation in the new development. And I'm wondering if at this stage any consideration has been given to those items.
We've been starting the initial work with the civil engineer on a lot of that, and just due to the building covering a lot of the site, even just getting our stormwater tank to fit somewhere has been hard. So that's sort of ongoing discussions due to limited space. But obviously we'd be doing sort of the usual low flush toilets with water restrictions, or not water restrictions, I guess, yeah, low flush toilets to reduce water, and basically consulting with the mechanical and civil on any ways that we can increase that as well. In terms of the energy, we're meeting the required step codes, which is going to mean a lot of exterior insulation on the building. And then the southern elevation, which is southern. Yeah, it's partially, it's sort of like an angled southern. So through the design of the wall space of all the residential units being set back with these patios and all the rooftops and patios covering, that provides a lot of shading for all these residential units, so that we're trying to lower the energy consumption for the heating and cooling in those residential units along that facade.
Okay, thank you. And just on that note, one final clarification. On the north side, the finish of the building is just exposed CMU, is that correct?
It's either, sorry, that's the one that's on the property line to the next building over, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either going to be CMU or concrete. We're just working that out with the structural engineer, but yeah, one of those two.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Is there any more questions from the panel at this time? Okay, I'll turn it over to comments then at this point. So I'll start in the same order then. I'll just go with Beth first.
Actually, I was going to request, Luke, if we could go in reverse order so I could benefit from the context of the people who were in the meeting last time.
That's a really good point. Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's go in reverse. So it'll be Celso then.
Thank you, Luke. So I still have two significant concerns about the design. First of all, I prefer the old version. I don't know if there was, can't remember if there was any major comment about we did talk about potential lack of maintenance of the flower beds and whatnot. I think but I prefer the old facade than this one. I think it got busier, and not sure if it works well. And that is also in detriment to the elevation of this canopy on that corner, which I still think that remains the same, right? That compressed. Well, the Cleveland and Victoria, right? So this 9'7", I think, compresses that corner significantly. So I myself would go back to the frames and find a solution to potentially, not quite sure about how much use that balcony on a office space would have, but I'm not a programmer, and or the architect on this project, but I think all that helps compressing that corner that to me is extremely important at that location. So not even sure if it's fully required a wraparound canopy there because you have the overhang of the box upstairs. But anyway, and I do understand the likely pressure from the owner to get the most of these retail space on ground level. But to me, the most important thing we talked about, which is loading, unloading, and the location of that PMT, continue to be extremely compromised. You know better than I that PMT could be, on the proper line in front of the garbage room with. No, that's fine. That's so. Was there a consultation with
No,
BC Hydro?
there's a sewer right of way. Sorry. Oh, sorry, I thought I wasn't allowed to talk. There's a sewer right of way at the back, so we have everything pushed to the max point that we're allowed to place anything permanent. So the PMT cannot go any further towards Loggers Lane. We are limited with a right of way.
No, any further to north? North? Yeah. In front of the garbage room. Anyway, I'm not here to suggest any design. What I'm concerned about is, whether or not that retail space could be somehow compromised, that we could accommodate a 5-ton truck within the boundaries or the envelope of the building, and that pad mount transformer wouldn't be at the very corner, and creating that alcove that we all kind of talked about last time. I'm not going to comment on the engineering allowing a loading that close to the corner, but those are my comments. I think last time I also talked about concern of the office not having a separate access on the 3rd level, I believe. But again, I don't think this is much of what the advisory design panel can actually comment on, because it's not forming character. But yeah, my main comments as far as forming character is that I really prefer the old version of the frames on the window. If possible, try to minimize the length and the extent of the canopy, probably make it glazed or something that doesn't compress that corner too much, because I don't think it's necessary, and it's really bringing it down. And we don't have the information of, easements or statutory right-of-ways or anything like that, but I would really, really love to see that 5-ton loading to be incorporated within the envelope. That would be for me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Celso. Then it'd be Michael, I think. Your comments?
Hey, just a few quick comments. I think the plantings at the corner ground level plaza area should really complement the proposed plantings at the Cleveland Victoria Plaza area. So I don't know if the plant list currently is in line with the type of aesthetic planting that's happening there, the engineering's proposing, but I think that should be an exercise that does happen. And then I do think that more consideration should be given to providing more space to that common rooftop patio. I think that there's room to still provide a buffer with the penthouse suite and that common area, but sort of still just moving those planters a bit in and reducing sort of unnecessary corners where debris can collect. So I think more consideration should be given to space to that common plaza area, given the size of the other units. Yeah, I think those are my comments.
Thanks, Michael. Sunny, please. Your comments.
Yeah, I really appreciate the elevation on Victoria Street. It is very dynamic and sits very well at such an important corner in downtown Squamish. I feel the facade on Cleveland Avenue should emphasize a similar concept expressed on Victoria Street, like on the two corner sides. I don't know, maybe by having windows or doors on the upper levels recessed on the exterior wall, just something a little bit more similar. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Sunny. Beth, the time has come.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I appreciate the context. I didn't see the previous facade, but I will say I do agree with Sunny. It was really the first thing that struck me as soon as I saw the proposal. You know, as an architect, but also someone who lives here and spends time on Cleveland, it struck me that the facade on Cleveland really could use a more elevated treatment. It is an important corner, and it's important because it's going to be servicing the two main faces of Victoria, which is kind of an up and coming high street, and Cleveland, which really is like, it is our high street, it's our main street, and I feel like it needs an elevated treatment. The one that's there right now really reads as sort of a side yard elevation. I would say also maybe in consideration of the alternate sort of side yard in a way, the facade that's off of Loggers Lane, I do appreciate that there's also an effort to provide some access to the outdoors, especially in rental buildings. But again, as someone who lives here and travels these roads a lot, Loggers Lane is quite a loud, dusty industrial road, and I wonder if consideration might be given to kind of relocating that access to the exterior to the high street of Victoria, which is forthcoming, because it looks like you've proposed something quite nice for that elevation. Let's see, I just wanted to revisit a couple of the comments from last week, because I definitely agreed with some of them. I do think these unit sizes are quite compressed, and I know these are rental units, but I still just want to say for livability, they are very small. I also don't see very many opportunities for storage in terms of livability or even furniture layout, a place to put a kitchen table. And that's just one thing I want to point out. I noticed there's quite generous balconies given to those spaces. I wonder if there's a balance to be struck in terms of like livable space and access to outdoors, especially when there's a common outdoor space for the residents as well. It's just another comment in terms of livability and the size of those units. Let's see. I think you guys have answered my questions about parking. And there was a comment made last week about Loggers Lane as well. I definitely agree with that one. And then just in terms of policy context, I think just going through the list, because this is our mandate, is really just to say, like, does the application meet these items per DPA 3 and DPA 5? And I would say just going through the list, reflecting what and celebrating what's unique and special about Squamish. I think I can see that, you know, orienting a lot of the views towards the chief, certainly that's something that you can do that reflects what's unique about Squamish. So I would give that sort of like yeah, we're headed in the right direction there. In terms of the materiality, arguably, yes, a little bit, because there's the wood and then there's some stone as well. The distinctive and creative character and architectural excellence, I certainly think that there's some opportunity to really focus on that for the facade on Cleveland, as I've mentioned and Sunny's mentioned as well. In terms of accessibility, I do notice that there are provisions made for some accessible suites, and I wish Sarah were here this week to speak a little bit more to it. I don't know if previously the elevator went all the way up to the full height of the building, but I see that it is now, so that's great. The one thing I would say about that, and I'm not sure if there's any room to assist in this at all, is that the accessible units are kind of the larger units, which kind of defaults to mean that the people who rent them need to pay a higher amount to inhabit them. So it's just something I would put that out there as a consideration, and wondering if there's anything that we can do to make the smaller units just accessible for people. That's a question I would have. And other than that, I've asked my question about energy and water conservation, and hopefully that will develop as the project develops. Enhancing the connectivity at the block and street levels, I think that you've done that with the transparency and the rounding of the corner, softening those edges. It's meeting the requirements and the vision for the transportation initiative quite nicely. High quality public realm, I would also say we're there in terms of that, and safe and functional livable neighborhoods. So that's just running through the list. And those are my comments.
Thanks, Beth. Okay, I'll wrap this up with my comments then. Yeah, thank you for addressing the majority of the accessible comments that we did have in the previous version. It's really great to see the elevator going up to the roof. And then a bit more detail and stuff being addressed around the garbage room and some other items. I do echo quite a few of the comments that have already come today. I feel that the Cleveland Avenue elevation and just the corner in general would benefit from further consideration to how it may contribute positively to like the Squamish vernacular or just its location. And yet to echo the DPA 3, I don't think we're quite there yet on that form and character on the corner. Potentially further consideration could be given to reflecting just the context in its immediate location. So for instance, the cornerstone across the other side of the crossroads, they use quite a high elevated level of materials with rock and heavy timbers on there. It also is well articulated but simple. And I feel that the Cleveland Avenue could maybe benefit further from that, but also appropriating itself more to that more eclectic elevation that you see down on Cleveland. And then just to go one further, the edges with its neighbor adjacent, how the lobby interacts with the firewall between the two units. I think careful consideration is needed there at the entry, and how those edges and the folds connect, where it's the courtyard, not the courtyard, the canopy and its transition up the building. And that would go for both the Cleveland and the Victoria elevation, acknowledging that is not an easy task. To speak to the decks, I think, yeah, it's nice to see the decks added on the Victoria and the Cleveland elevations, given that those were the one beds. I think further consideration could be given to the usability of these decks versus the actual area of the units. Just to take the panel members' comments further, the smaller units have large, very usable decks, and the larger units have small, almost unusable decks. 4 foot for a deck is very tight. You can barely get a table and chair out there, especially if you're considering giving them a space where they can put planting. It would be nice to see them be at least 5 feet, but that I'll leave it there. And then the overhead protection, I think upon that penthouse level, potentially running an eave or something that speaks to the architecture that you're already working with might be a bit more beneficial and successful there. I see what you're trying to do with the boxes upon the top, but it's not really anywhere else in the building, and I think it adds an element of business, whereas bringing in some kind of eave or something there might assist in both weather protection for more use in the year and also shading. And that I'll leave my comments for that there. So I will, I'll summarize the comments, and then we'll go
I had one.
into.
I had one more comment, Luke.
Oh, you do? Okay, Michael, go.
Yeah, well, and it's a bit of a question for the panel here as well. As I'm just thinking about the picket guardrail fences on the private patios, and you know, like in the strata I live in, a lot of people have put panels up to add additional privacy, and then the strata had to change a bylaw to make everything look more consistent because there's a big hodgepodge of materials, and people also use their decks for a lot of personal storage, and so if this corner and the facade and sort of the aesthetic wants to be clean or more uniform, I think it should be considered how people will use the patio, to your point, Luke. And if with the smaller units, people will definitely be storing a hodgepodge of things out there. And I'm just wondering what the panel thinks about making those the guardrails more of a wall as opposed to something that's see-through.
Yeah, I find that it's something definitely worthwhile considering given the amount of area that's available in the units. I think also the detailing of a picket guard is got to be very carefully considered as well, especially given the fact that it could look a little off the shelf sometimes. But to be able to conceal the actual things that get stored on there, I would support a suggestion towards a more solid or translucent type that could add that coverage.
Yeah, as would I. And thank you for bringing that up, Michael, because I had something similar in my mind, especially about those areas being used for storage. I know in Vancouver, people try to enclose them all the time, which is obviously not allowed, but.
Okay, are there any other comments that anyone would like to add at this point? Oh, and then in the chambers, would you like a summary of the panel's comments today?
Was that to me? Sorry.
Yeah, I can just summarize the comments, and then I was going to go into a motion to adopt them.
I mean, I think I've captured most of them. If you wanted to do a brief one, just to make sure, I'm happy to listen in.
Okay. Okay, there was comments from the panel about the concern for the PMT location being on the prominent corner and whether or not further consideration should be given to its location, especially with regard to the garbage and its access. The canopy on Cleveland was deemed to feel a little heavy. It was previously preferred that the frames on the from the previous version, the window frames were quite successful. And the newer version wasn't deemed to be have the same success, but that kind of falls in with Cleveland Avenue elevation needing to further meet DPA 3. We discussed the guards on the decks. It would be useful to consider a little bit more potential solidity there, but also the usability of them versus the actual area. The planting should complement that of the Victoria streetscape that's planned, and it'd be worthwhile to consider more space at the rooftop patio and the common space there, as well as some overhead protection at the rooftop and for the penthouse. Did I miss anything there?
I mean, I noted the
Yeah.
compressed unit sizes that was discussed as well.
Okay.
Accessibility, et cetera.
Okay. I'll sorry, I'm just trying to pull up my other file here. But I guess we'll the next item is then to make a motion. I don't have them in front of me. I'm going to have to try and do this by memory, so I apologize. I think it was the panel supports the project and doesn't require them to return. B, this supports the project as presented, and they should work with staff to resolve the comments and don't require them to return. And then C would be we support it as presented, but they need to continue to work with the comments and also return to ADP. Could I get a motion put forward by somebody? Beth?
I would motion C, just because I think that facade on Cleveland Avenue is very critical.
Sorry, could I just jump in? Given that this is a market rental project and that it's already been to ADP twice, it won't be coming back. So the options would be A, that it doesn't need further review, B, that they work with applicant works with staff to resolve the following recommendations that the panel provides, or C, that the advisory design panel does not support the project as presented for the following reasons.
That's
Okay.
trickier then. I'll have to think about it.
Can I have a bit more background on that, Brian? I know when we've done these affordable rental type things before, sorry, I didn't realize that it had moved to this. But if we went with a C, it would just continue down the panel, but it would not have ADP support? Am I correct in that assumption?
That's correct. It would just be noted in when it goes to council, the ADP, like we always summarize ADP's, the journey that it has been through ADP in the council report. So it would just be noted that ADP didn't support the project for a number of reasons. And then staff would articulate what they've done with the proponent to address that. Or if staff were also in agreement that it didn't meet those things, then that would be highlighted. But essentially, whatever this final recommendation is what will get captured in that section of the report to council.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Given that information, does anyone have a motion to put forwards?
I think I still motion C personally, because I think it's the comments that have been made are important comments, and I just don't know how we proceed to see those being incorporated just through asking that they be incorporated.
Hello?
Can you hear me, Luke?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, sorry, everything cut out there for a second.
Luke's also here and applicant. I honestly need to think a lot about this because I know the pain. I'm an architect as well. I'm just frustrated that there was almost no tentative solution or mitigation to a problem that we probably spent half of last ADP talking about, which is the loggers, elevation and the location of PMT loading. So I think I'm pretty sure you guys could work out the corner canopy and whatnot, but I'm gonna have to think about what my recommendation would be, because I'm mostly frustrated for not seeing any effort. Not sure if there is a solution or not. I'm not the design architect, but I'm a bit frustrated with that. So that's why I'm not moving a motion, because I'm still on the fence.
That's okay. So also, that's noted. Okay, I mean, as a member of the panel who was present for the other presentation as well, given that my primary consideration originally was the DPA 3 not being met, and I think it's 5 on this as well, the accessibility and the general livability, but I also had a concern for public safety. I feel like a couple of them have been addressed slightly through the accessibility comments. However, I still have existing concerns that remain from the previous, such as its distinct and commitment to architectural excellence, and how it actually contributes positively to Squamish and that current context. So on that, I would put forward a C, because I don't want to say that it's a hard decision to make here, because normally I would say that I support it and we'd work further to develop this. But as we can't see it again, at this point, as it's been presented, Again, I appreciate the work that's been done to this point, but I cannot support this project. So I would put forward a motion for C, a recommendation, sorry, for C, if anyone agrees with that, but I'm happy to discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, I do second that decision, as we can't see the project return.
Yeah, I mean, just as I understand it, as Bryan has explained, it doesn't necessarily mean that it stops the project from moving forwards, which is again why, you know, it would go with the C, just because, yeah, I can't support it, but it can continue down the channel and council can make their decision based off our input. And if we go for a B, they obviously will think that we support it, but I cannot support it as it was presented. So I'll stick with my C. If you want to second that, Beth, that's.
I do second it. There are several items with respect to DPA 3 in particular that I can't confirm.
Okay. Can I have like an all in favor? I got Sunny and Beth and myself. Okay. So that would complete the business of today.
Oh, wait, so that motion is the project is presented for the following reasons.
Yep.
It would be helpful for staff if I mean, the comments that you provided before were captured, but if you could just kind of summarize those reasons, that would be quite helpful. So staff are obviously still going to work to try and address these. So if you could just summarize them, that'd be very helpful.
Absolutely, yeah.
Luke, can I just ask a question?
Yes,
As you
sir.
notice, I didn't vote because I am concerned about this. So what is the protocol? So you can still continue to work with the applicant and go to council with a non-recommendation from ADP, and the project could still be approved.
That's correct. ADP is a panel that is a voluntary design panel that is meant to provide feedback on DPA 3 guideline compliance to assist with staff and with council, because council are elected officials. They're not necessarily well versed in that. Council takes into consideration the recommendations of ADP. Typically, they are met, and obviously staff are also going to work with this. I think the difference between B and C is that B is saying, yeah, we're generally okay with this and we'd like these few things changed, and then we're good with the project. Whereas C is saying, these are a few things, we are not supportive of the project because of these following items that we feel strongly about, and we feel that they don't meet that. So staff are still going to work with the applicant where possible. And then that will inform staff's recommendation with respect to form and character. And then obviously there's other things such as the variance for parking in this that are also presented to council for consideration that are separate from the DPA 3 guidance stuff, but hopefully that's a bit more helpful context.
Thank you. So I guess, look, my vote doesn't really, I don't know, Michael, if you voted or not, but we're 5 members here, 3 voted as C. So I still want to see a housing overall, but yeah, I can't support the design the way it's presented. I hope you guys can work out and council see the value of the new design and get something provided to the city. But yeah, I'll support C.
Okay, thank you, Celso. So To assist Brian, the comments or the primary comments on the reasons why we could not support it was that we did not meet particulars in the DPA 3 with regard to I need to actually pull up the guidelines here. Sorry, I can speak to them. Would you like specific line items, Brian, or?
Whatever the panel has consensus on, those are helpful for sure. And then just kind of like general sticking points with respect to the guidelines. Obviously, like I understand the comments related to livability of the units, but that's not a form and character discussion.
Yeah.
So,
Luke, I can list them. I have them here, if that would be helpful.
That would be great if you could assist. Sorry.
Sure, no problem. Under
prepared to
policy
spend-
context, I think the three main ones under DPA 3 reflect and celebrate what is unique and special about Squamish. There's some elements in here, but honestly, Cleveland Avenue is unique, and I think it needs to be incorporated into that as well. Foster a distinctive and creative character and architectural excellence is the second one. And realize a built environment that's accessible and promotes and supports better health outcomes for citizens. Those are the first three that I would say that are directly related to the form and character.
Mhm.
Happy to hear comments about that from the panelists, of course.
I support that. I would also further on, like there was one to support safe and functional livable neighborhoods, and I still have a concern on loggers and Victoria about that corner and how that integrates with the new streetscape.
Agree, Luke, and I would suggest that we curate how, just for the sake of minutes and whatnot, and council, if you choose to go to council without support from ADP, which is quite acceptable, but that we curate the suggestions or how we see the loggers not meeting DPA, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The positioning of the PMT, not having a loading within the envelope of the building, septad issues as we see, plus the interface with the public realm and PMT and whatnot for better treatment. And I'm happy to have other people trying to specifically list all the issues we saw and hoping that that gets addressed.
I think that generally quite covers it. Also, unless anyone else has got something to add to that. Okay, so yeah, so that would be the first three: reflect, celebrate on what is unique about and special about Squamish, foster a distinctive creative character and architectural excellence, realize a built environment that is accessible and promotes and supports better health outcomes for citizens. Given that one's not necessarily related to the size of the units, perhaps we could let that one go. However, support safe, functional, livable neighborhoods is also one that we're looking for further development on. Yeah, those would be the primary ones. Is that enough for you there, Brian?
it is. Thank you very much.
Okay. Has anyone got any further items to discuss today? Just while we're all online. No, okay. I'll look for a motion to terminate the meeting, please.
I'll move the motion.
Thanks, Elso. Seconded.
Second.
Michael, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.